Ready? And
Welcome,
two
Angel.
and the
Wiz.
very good.
Taken for granted, never ever wonder.
Folks, last week we started part one of the Stu Paul Story. And I mean, Angel has been very gracious to allow me to use this time, because normally we sit here, we laugh, we have fun, and we kid around. But this was a really, really beautiful guy, and he's gone now, you know? And when you know somebody that is this good, you can't just let his passing go unnoticed or unmentioned. Everybody's life that he ever came into was touched by him. And he's just this, if you saw last week, he would just say he's just this old guy. But he was a really beautiful old guy. And he was a solution, not a cause of the problem. He was a solution. So this is our final visit. This is Hometown Heroes, the Stu Paul Story. This is part two and the conclusion. And I hope that maybe even through this will touch somebody's life and, you know, help them.
Stu Paul has been, in my opinion, one of the grandfathers in the treatment of alcoholism and drug addiction.
AA had no place to hospitalize people in the whole Long Island area. They had Towns Hospital, Knickerbocker Hospital. That was about it. And there was a little bitty hospital in a village on Long Island called Freeport. It wasn't doing very well. It was a general hospital, and it was pretty close to closing. AA went there and asked for 10 beds. I was representing the Long Island Council, and there were some other people there, and some union people, and they were interested for a place to help their members. And so the treatment field in the greater New York area, as it is now known, began in a little bitty hospital with 10 beds, and not a lot of the other beds in that hospital filled. And we began working. I was still at the council. They made me an offer and said, Stu, if you're still happy at the council, I said, yes, I am. They said, yeah, but there's a whole new dimension. We don't know very much about treatment or physicians, but you have the experience in the other area. Would you consider coming and being the executive director? And we're going to convert this hospital into a treatment center for alcoholism, and that got me. We became the first licensed total treatment center for alcoholism in the state of New York. We took a little 72-bed hospital, and this did not go over too well, and informed the state education department that no other hospital will admit my people. No one will admit an alcoholic. We will admit no one else. Family suffers 10 times more than any alcoholic or any addict. unless they're in the final, painfully serious, death-like stages of the end of the disease. Family suffers fearfully. So we started creating a total treatment. We did the detox. We set up a family program. Now, to show how things have to change, the same as what we're talking about on this program, things need to change and advance. Alcoholics Anonymous was now very pleased. The headquarters was in the city. There were no intergroups in Long Island. There was only one intergroup. And we began to see things, and I began to see things. I knew nothing about hospital work. So in a hospital, people are fed on bed trays. But alcoholics and addicts, and I'm going to add addicts in this, because we've been treating dual addiction since 1969. Okay, first we had cross addiction into the pills, because all untrained psychiatrists knew what to do with the alcoholic, put them on the Valiums and the Libriums and cross-addict them. Now they've got two addictions rather than just one on it. Fascinating things happen. We fed them by tray. I said, why? Why can't we get them out of these bedrooms? They're isolating, and we'll make a community dining room. The hospital no longer used its old operating room, so we fixed them up a little bit, and we sat them down. Now, there's something else. AA's standards in those days in Towns Hospital, where Bill Wilson started the AA program, had 2 floors. Most people, well, not as old as I am, they wouldn't know the history. You could only be admitted into, quote, the AA unit once. Can you believe that? If you relapse, you are a pariah. You could never be with the AA unit people, yet to go to a separate floor. Never the twain should meet. When we opened up the hospital, we were happy that we were moving in the right direction. AA's trustees came with us and made us do 2 separate wings. And we did that for a very short time until we said, this is nonsense. There was, quote, the AA unit, even though by the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous and the preamble, we don't involve ourselves in this and that. That was called an AA unit, which we changed. We had the North Wing for the souls who relapsed. I thought this was a disease. Well, we have North and South Wing, and I come up with the idea, we came up with this idea of bringing them together. Good God Almighty, whoom, out came the trustees of AA. I'm not saying this to knock them. I'm not saying this to be insulting, because I'm going to make a statement. Without AA and without NA, there is no field. And I'll defy any professional, okay, to maintain someone's recovery without getting them into the most valuable support system on the face of this earth. But AA had to change. And they did not want them sitting with our patients. I was the only person in recovery, okay, on the staff of this hospital. I had to come in with a book of traditions on AA and a book of preamble and go over it with them. Wait. You really have nothing to say about this at all. And we're going to bring them together to eat, because they're starting to talk with one another and they're meeting one another, not sitting in a bloody hospital room, okay, not eating their dinner. They're eating better. Everything's working out fine. That was the beginning. We kept the separate wings just to keep peace. We brought them back. They didn't think there was any reason to give lectures, groups. All that was needed was unending AA meetings. Wrong. Every one of these people had individual needs. Most of them were working. Some were not. Some had lost a job. Some had lost a family. So the individualization of formal treatment began. For that, extremely criticized, told, we'll close you down, we won't use that. You could not go into Freeport Hospital or Towns. The only way you could get in was by a sponsor bringing you and you couldn't leave without a sponsor picking you up. Come on. We had to move on. So all this began to change. We did the very first group therapy, one-to-one counseling, presentations, and we began to formalize, which was the raw basic rudiments of what is now called a treatment plan. We had fascinating things happen. Freeport, the little village of Freeport, God bless them to this day, okay, this hospital was situated right within a residential community. There were no stores next to it, okay, and we had a lot of work to do, but the village fathers and the residents, okay, gave us a shot at it. There was never an incident in that community by one of our patients, never, and all the time it was there. In developing the family program, one afternoon, a Nordic lady, very attractive woman, came in and met with our family counseling, started talking about her father, and wanted to bring her father in for treatment. As this developed, and I'm going to compile it, but it's fascinating how working with the family, in many cases, the way treatment begins for an alcoholic or an addict who is blind to really what is going on, sometimes willfully blind to what's going on. They live there, the family. The next thing we know, Dad comes into the hospital. He's from Iceland. It's a long distance from a little tiny hospital. He comes in. He's also very high up in the democratic government, making a fool out of himself, becoming an embarrassment to the government and all. And he comes down here, and lo and behold, he gets well. Never to relapse again. He goes back to Iceland and starts spreading the news. And the most fascinating thing happened. Freeport Hospital did all the treatment for the country of Iceland for many, many years until we began teaching them. They began sending Icelandic people down, because this was absurd to come all the way down to Freeport and then go back. I would dare say, if I say 1,000 Icelandics, I'd be well within range. The biggest AA group in the world is in Reykjavik, okay, the big city up in Iceland, and it's called a Freeport Group. I believe it is to this day. Certainly has more than 700 members on it.
Susan knew all about drinking and driving. She wouldn't dare get behind the wheel of a car if she'd been drinking. But Susan was drunk when she died, and she was nowhere near a car. Susan died alone in her burning house. Each year, alcohol abuse causes thousands of accidental deaths. Susan was just one. You don't have to be in a car to die from drinking. There are lots of situations that don't mix with alcohol. Remember, getting drunk is never safe.
I look different. I wish people liked me more.
Why do I have to be so?
Why do I have to be like this? Strange. I have these thoughts. I wish I were taller, cooler, stronger. Everybody else gets high.
I just don't want to.
I think a lot of kids smoke pot. I feel like I'm the only one who doesn't.
Why do I have to be so
Different.
different? Maybe we're not as different as we think.
The developing baby is a miracle, but when the mother drinks, alcohol in her blood can hit hard, causing everything from minor abnormalities to fetal alcohol syndrome, with a range of birth defects, including mental retardation. We don't yet know how much alcohol is too much, but FAS can't happen if you don't drink. Warning, alcohol can be hazardous to your unborn baby's health, and we want your baby to be perfect.